How often are you communicating with the client or agency? And if they have notes on the cinematography or the way things look, how do you navigate those conversations? And do you go to the director first, or are you direct to those people?
I try my best not to be direct to those people at all whatsoever, because I don't want to
Mm,
step over anybody's toes. I go straight to the director, and sometimes I'm friends with agency. I'm friends with agency producers or client. They come directly to you, but I'm just like, okay, let me address this. I hear you. Let me talk to the director and see what they think. That's
mm.
how I always have done it, and that's how I always will, unless something changed. But um, but yeah, and the way that I see it too is like a lot of people dislike when they get those notes, and sometimes I respect those notes because from a brand perspective, from the agency perspective, those notes make sense,
Hmm.
um, to a certain extent, right? Like I know the type of job that I'm on. Like if I'm on a beauty commercial, I'm not going to try and make it look like, a dark, moody scene, of
All
course.
right.
And they want more light on the product, of course, totally. That makes sense because from a client perspective, that's what they're thinking about, how they can
Hmm.
sell this product. And for us, it's like we're getting paid to do this. So it's, we have to be a little bit less selfish, but at the same time, do what you need to do. So yeah, I don't know. I welcome the notes as much as I can, but I always filter it through the director. Yeah.
Amazing. I want to talk about one project in particular, the
Mm.
Starface one that you shot.
Oh
When
yeah.
I first saw that, I feel like it had such a distinct look to it. And I remember reading a comment from someone. It said something like, I've been trying to obtain this like silver look. And I think that was
Mm.
like a pretty good representation of what it was. I guess for that project, how involved are you on the final look? And is that done through creating a lot before the shoot, or is it working with the colorist after? Was that look in the creative? Like how do you manage the overall look of it?
Yeah, I'm still trying to get better about this because I used to not use LUTs at all whatsoever, and I realized this is kind of like your going back to your earlier question of like the challenges or how you learn to be different at this level or whatever. I used to not shoot with LUTs at all whatsoever, and my stuff ended up looking the same most of the time because you get
Mm,
so used to like what 709 looks like, and you're
right.
not really open to different looks later on in the color session. Um, so for this particular one, we knew that we needed to make it look like pay an homage to 90s and to the 90s era. And but I didn't really have any LUTs to work with, so I was just like, okay, let me just shoot it, figure it out. If I'm being honest, just let me just figure it out in post. And I had pitched this to the director where I was like, hey, we can't shoot on film, but let's print it to film.
Mm,
Um, and if I'm being completely honest, that look just came about. Like it just kind of was discovered in the color session between the colorist,
mm,
me, and the director. It was kind of a surprise because we weren't really like, very specific about, okay, we want this silver look. We want this to be like very nostalgic or anything. I mean, we knew that we wanted to be nostalgic, but like not this particular way of looking. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of the answer. I mean, I don't really have like, specific references that I reference to get this
mm.
look. I just got very lucky, I guess.
Yeah, no, that one's it's when I first saw it, it was beautiful. I was like, this is way different than anything that I've seen recently. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
unbelievable looking.
And
I guess
printing this. Oh, sorry.
yeah. Can you explain that process a little bit? Like
Yeah.
what that means a little bit more?
Yeah. Printing film is like always, you don't really know what you're going to get, to be honest. Like it's always different.
Mm,
But I talked to a friend of mine who's a director friend of mine who I worked with all the time when I started getting into this process, and he like kind of done a lot of research about it and talked to the lab and things like that. But it's it's just as simple as having your edit color graded as close as how you want it to look at the end, then printing to whatever stock that you want to print to,
mm,
then regrading that because printing the film does certain things like bringing the saturation up or down or definitely more contrasty after you have printed. So you have to like fine tune it after, but it's pretty simple. And sort
Mm,
of cost-effective way of, having that look. I
mm.
don't know if you have like any
Do you
more
find,
specific questions.
yeah, like I guess, what is the actual process of printing it to film? Like, how do you take it from, DaVinci Resolve to, I guess, printing it to film back to DaVinci, for example? Like, what does that process look like?
To be honest, I don't really know. I just say, it's always been with post-production houses. So
Right.
they might have DaVinci, they might have a different
Yeah,
system,
some other, sure,
base
sure.
light or whatever. But it's not, it doesn't seem to be that complicated. Again, you send
Mm,
it to the lab, they scan it, and then that gets sent back to the color house, and they regrade it a little bit, and then they export it. It's not like
mm.
it's not as complicated as like most people think it is.